ultimately, does this mean that the EU tariff hammer is going to fall on Chinese EV exports, and how severe could those tariffs be?
I think, Sri, the answer is twofold there. First, we'll have to watch what comes out of the meeting this week when European Commission Executive Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis is in China for meetings, and whether he finds any openings in Beijing to negotiate a settlement to ameliorate the harm that the EU is claiming that Chinese EV subsidies are causing. If there's a way out of this situation via dialogue, the Europeans would certainly prefer that, particularly Germany. If not, I think the investigation will find harm from the Chinese subsidies to European car makers, in which case we're talking about the tariffs going almost tripling from about 10% to 27.5%.
Does it feel at this stage, and I know the investigation has to pursue its course, but does it feel, Emre, that the EU and China are heading into a retaliatory spiral over this issue?
Early days, but I think this is quite a bold political step by the European Commission. Mind you that they launched this investigation ex officio, which means that there wasn't a member state or a congregation of member states and companies that filed a complaint alleging subsidies. The European Commission itself, amid conversations with member states, decided that there's a problem here and decided to launch this. And if von der Leyen and her team were willing to do this, it suggests that they have enough evidence to feel strongly about the harm done to European industry. So I would say that 3 years ago, 5 years ago, this would have been an unthinkable step. There would have been a lot of entreaties to try and engage with Beijing and settle this matter without these legal trade proceedings. But the fact that now we're seeing movement in that direction definitely shows a hardening of Europe's stance towards China over these unfair trade practices that Brussels is alleging.
Emre, just bear with me. We are getting some headlines from China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in a meeting with his Maltese counterparts. Two sides will work together to promote China-European Union cooperation. In a meeting with his Malta counterpart, Wang Yi says China hopes Malta would continue to play a positive role in the development of China-EU relations. China-EU cooperation outweighs differences, and both countries are partners. So there is an effort here, arguably, to find some kind of middle ground. But just getting back to this issue, Emre, are there parallels to the EU's and Europe's relationship with Japan and the car industry and exports in the 1990s, and does that provide any kind of off-ramp to the current set of tensions with China?
I think we're looking at two very different players and historical points, Sri, and I'm not sure that the examples will match perfectly. The fact that the foreign minister is looking to talk up cooperation while sitting side by side with his Maltese counterpart is not a surprise. This is part of China's strategy to always bring up cooperation and partnership and mutually advantageous situations, but at the same time, pursuing a model of state capitalism that constantly undermines the EU's competitiveness with Europe's a lot more open market and commitment to WTO practices. So, I think this time it's different. Europe is in the middle of trying to engineer a massive industrial transition from old technologies to new technologies, particularly in digital, green industries, and EVs. And at a time like this, not being able to compete with China and, on the other hand, with the US is a big handicap for the EU. So I think commitment growing in Europe to underpin a more competitive industrial base and support this transition is also very strong. So I see more odds of tension as opposed to off-ramps to settle the issue amicably.